Borderlands 2 is a game overflowing with loot, endless guns, shields, and mods ranging from legendary to absolute garbage. But what if I stripped all that away? No farming rare drops, no looting chests, no scavenging fallen enemies. Instead, I'm limiting myself to what the vending machines have to offer. From everything I've read online, Borderlands 2 has the worst machines of the entire franchise. This raises the ultimate question. Can you beat Borderlands 2 using only vending machine gear? First things first, I need to pick a class, and one choice stands out as perfect for the challenge. Salvador the Gunzerker. His entire playstyle revolves around weapons, making him an ideal fit for my restrictions. After all, what's better than wielding one vending machine weapon? Dual wielding two. Let's lay down the restrictions for this challenge. 1. Vending machines only. I can only use gear purchased from vending machines. That includes weapons, class mods, grenade mods, and shields. The only exception, the starter pistol. But as soon as I reach my first weapon machine, it's gone for good. 2. One upgrade per machine. No spamming purchases. I'm allowed only one piece of gear per vending machine. Once something is bought, I cannot buy anything else from that machine. The only exception, ammo, because even I have limits. 3. Loot is for profit, not progress. I can pick up gear from enemies in chests, but only to sell. 4. No DLC at all, not even the farm experience. With the restrictions in place, let's hop in. Right from the start, we meet everyone's favorite trash can on wheels, Claptrap, who immediately loses his eye. First mission, find his eye and slap it back in his face. He hands me a starter pistol, the same pea shooter I mentioned earlier. Even without an eye, Claptrap is already firing off your mom jokes like it's 2009. Then comes our first boss fight with Knuckle Dragger. It's a big name, but not so big of a fight. He goes down so fast that his minions don't even have time to clock in. After clearing the town for Hammerlock, he immediately pranks Claptrap, which I find hilarious, until I fall for it myself and earn my first of many embarrassing deaths to come. I reach a health vending machine and think time for an upgrade, but nope, my wallet says otherwise. Even in a wasteland, I can't afford healthcare. So I do what any citizen would do, loot some graves and sell my findings. After finally scraping together enough cash, I head back to Hammerlock's house and buy my first vending machine weapon. I skip the item of the day because it burns 2 bullets per shot and I'm already struggling with ammo. Armed with my new pistol, the challenge officially starts. I clear out another camp to unlock my first shield. I go for the fast recharge model off first glance. While I'm here, I do a side quest that involves punching some bully mongs for their fur. I decide to give the fur to Claptrap so he can live out his rockstar fantasy with a Sig Mohawk. I breeze through another wave of bandits before facing the second boss, Boom and Boom. The small one drops before the first boom, but the big guy proves trickier, especially with my limited ammo. Mid-fight, I notice my action skill won't activate. After frantically mashing every button, I realize I need 2 guns to use it. Instantly regretting my life choice, I muscle my way through the fight with a whole lot of punching. After that, I get some target practice on a rack attack before heading out, but ammo is still a rare luxury, so I find myself punching through bandit camps like I'm trying out for Fight Club. I grab another shield upgrade from a vending machine before running into Claptrap's worst nightmare, stairs. He pauses, deep in thought, trying to find a workaround that involves me doing all the work. Once at the top, I face the third boss, Captain Flint, a notorious bully of one-eyed robots. To my surprise, he falls faster than Boom Boom, collapsing under a flurry of lethal punches. Walking everywhere was getting old fast. This isn't a jogging simulator after all. Luckily, some mysterious woman points me toward a catch-a-ride station, which needs to be hacked first, because why would anything in this world just work? Tracking down the parts turns into a respawn marathon, but after some rage-fueled perseverance, I finally get my sweet new ride. And what's the first thing I do with it? Mow down an entire bandit camp with the dual machine guns. A slight detour leads me to my second weapon machine, where I pick an SMG. More importantly, I finally unlocked my action skill. Without overthinking it, I invest in the ammo conserving skill tree because my wasting ammo habit is starting to look like a financial crisis. Armed with my new toy, I go on a bully mong hunt, one of which tries to play leapfrog with me. Then comes the moment of truth, my action skill use, and it's glorious. Dual wielding and spraying down enemies makes me stop regretting my class choice. The hype is short-lived though, because I immediately blow myself up with a reloadable T-Door SMG. Who needs enemies when you have yourself? After clearing out the camp, I finally make it to Sanctuary, but of course I can't just walk in. Instead, I have to wait for Jessup, the world's most confused gate guard, to figure out how to do his one job. Once inside, I meet Scooter, the mechanic with the best catchphrase of all time. After hunting down some parts, we get Sanctuary back in working order. Just outside his home, I score my third weapon, a shotgun. One triple kill later and I'm obsessed. The only problem is that it holds 1 shell at a time. On the bright side, it might help me conserve ammo. I briefly detour to wipe out some friendly neighborhood spider ants and hit level 9. The mysterious woman warns me about deadly traps right as I step into one and start burning alive. Great timing. Nearly 2 hours in, I finally get my first grenade mod and buy it without even reading the description. Finally reaching the Firehawk's lair, I discover it's none other than Lilith, And no, she did not kidnap Roland. We team up to take down 2 waves of raiding bandits with no problem. Well, except for her stealing my downed kill, which officially lands her on my growing list of offenders right next to Hammerlock. Now gearing up for the next main story mission, I realize I'm 3 levels behind. So I swing by a town in desperate need of power to take on a side quest, hunting creatures guarding parts. After powering up the town, I unlock my 3rd weapon machine and swap my outdated pistol for a sniper rifle. To test out my new sniper, I take on a little side quest, basically playing Borderlands DoorDash. The only problem is that these customers conveniently forgot to tip, so instead of cash, I walk away with nothing but blood on my hands. Meanwhile, Roland is chilling in a bandit camp against his will, and naturally my attempt to blend in as a fellow psycho doesn't work. Luckily, Scooter has a plan. In comes Ellie, and her 2 very big attributes. Her cars, of course. What did you think I meant? To pull this off, I need a bandit vehicle, which means blowing up a few so Ellie can craft a convincing copy. On my way back, I spot a slot machine, decide to take a gamble, and instantly lose $35. Lesson learned, never trust Vegas or Pandora. Back at Ellie's, she works her mechanical magic and creates a sweet new ride. Over at the vending machine, I blow all my cash on my first ever blue rarity item, a grenade mod. Definitely not a decision that will haunt me later. Now armed with our fake bandit car, I roll up to the camp, and thanks to their remarkable intelligence, they actually fall for it. 1 honk later and I'm in. Once inside, I meet Bad Maul, who apparently thinks his shield needs hostages strapped to it. After taking out 2 of them, the last one leaps off on his own, only for Bad Maul to finish him off, robbing me of my last stand kill. RIP Hubert. Since I'm way underleveled, I grind some side quests. One requires me to burn a volleyball net because sports are bad. Unfortunately, I don't have a fire weapon, making the whole thing a waste of time. Instead, I decide to go help Ellie get into the holiday spirit by setting up some lovely ornaments. With 1 extra level under my belt, I decide I'm ready to roll. Back at the compound, I spot a weapon upgrade in the shop, but guess what? I'm broke. Because of the dumb grenade mod I still haven't used. I sprint past Mad Mike, break into the cell, and finally come face to face with Roland himself. And then he instantly gets kidnapped. I fight through some R2-D2 knockoffs before reaching the next area, where I pick up my first class mod. Now I find myself in the middle of a full-blown robot versus bandit war, and I do the logical thing and side with the bandits. Yes, the same ones I've been mowing down this whole time. Then here comes the real nightmare, the Constructor. The robot baby factory was responsible for creating more enemies than my ammo can handle. I take down one of its toughest creations, and yet another one spawns. Eventually, I run out of time, and Roland gets shipped off to some faraway land to be tortured. On to round 2 of saving Roland, because the first attempt went so well. On the way, I snag a shield upgrade and go on a sniper spree, picking off enemies like I'm auditioning for FaZe Clan. The Constructor, oh yeah, it folds faster than a cheap lawn chair this time. Finally, Roland is free. You'd think he'd be grateful and help out, but nope, turns out he was chilling inside the Constructor the whole time. Back at Sanctuary, Roland completely drops the ball in the Firehawk situation. Now I have to go meet his top spy, who is sleeping. To wake him up, I need to set a bunch of bugs on fire because apparently alarm clocks don't exist. The only problem is I don't have a fire weapon. The solution is to set everything on fire, including myself, using an incinerator. Turns out the spy is Mordecai, who sounds like he's had one too many Millers. Enter Tiny Tina, Queen of the Boom. Helping her out, I stumble upon a new grenade mod, fitting considering Tiny Tina's obsession with explosions. Then I go retrieve the Badonkadonks. While I think I'm being stealthy, sneaking around the outside, when out of nowhere, Thomas the Train rolls in and absolutely flattens me. After recovering the goods, Tina locks herself away to cook up something spectacular. So I launch the rockets and send Thomas straight to the scrapyard. Now I run into Wilhelm, who gave past Vault Hunters trouble. But for me, it wasn't that bad. I grab the definitely not suspicious power core and plug it into Sanctuary. Big surprise, it was a trap, and now things get messy. Lilith and Scooter pull an Ultron, turning Sanctuary into a flying city. Before heading to the next area, I play some Minecraft to farm some cash. Just enough to buy a class mod that regenerates ammo. This should be the investment of the century. Now here's a quick guide on how to get rich fast in Pandora. Find a Goliath with a machine on his back. Take him out to dinner. Pull the lever on his back as many times as possible and watch the money roll in. Now that I'm broke and realizing my level 7 white rarity weapons are about as useful as a water gun, I head to the slaughterhouse to level up. After many deaths and selling half of my loot, I can finally afford my first elemental gun. I just need to hit level 17 to use it first. I then try to sprint past the most annoying monsters in Borderlands, looking at you stalkers, but instead of escaping, I accidentally trigger an all-out war between them and some robots. Once the dust settles, I stumble upon something I was definitely not supposed to see. Let's just say I got an unexpected biology lesson on the birds and the bees of stalkers. Trying to move past my newfound trauma, I go searching for a way to cross the river to grab a beacon. But plot twist, a Thresher has claimed it as his new favorite chew toy. Then comes me dishing out some massive damage, and after an intense battle, I finally take it down, level up, and claim my prize. Before heading back to Overlook, I make a quick pit stop at the Holy Spirits for a few drinks, because nothing prepares you for a battle quite like a little liquid courage. On my way out, I meet a guy who just won't stop talking, and then I spot a weapon machine that I tragically cannot access. Right before the big fight, I hit a vending machine and score my first assault rifle, finally retiring my shotgun. Now on to defending the beacon. It only broke twice before I took out all the bots and got my fast travel back online. Honestly, that's an A- performance by Pandora standards. Back at Sanctuary, Claptrap throws a party and it's packed. Who knew he had this many friends? I then take out a murderer purely on a lucky guess, detective level 99. Pushing forward, I sprint past overleveled stalkers, only to end up with Mordecai, who lost his bird. Turns out the bird also has the Claptrap upgrade I need. Pushing forward, my sniper buddy is coming in clutch right up until he steals my kill. Frustrated, I decide to run past everything until I hit a checkpoint. That's a great plan because waiting for me is a giant electric skag who spawn kills me on repeat like it's farming me for XP. Yeah, it's time to level up. So I return back to the Slaughter Dome. This time, I'm determined to survive the 5 waves of madness. After an hour of pain and only 3 deaths later, I finally hit level 20. Now it's time to save Bloodwing. On my way back, I decide it's time for some gear upgrades, because nothing screams prepared for battle like realizing my weapons are about as effective as throwing wet paper towels at my enemies. With my newly earned levels and fresh loadout, I finally take down the shock skag that had been bullying me before. From there, I speed past the weaker bots feeling like an absolute god until I hit my first real challenge. After a few trial and error deaths, I finally figure out his attack pattern and engage in the most intense game of Ring Around the Rosie around a mushroom tree. It's not the most heroic strategy, but a win's a win. I press on and stumble upon some feathers that belong to Bloodwing. Mordecai the Optimist tells us to keep moving. Of course it was all a trap. Jack, being the fun-loving psychopath he is, releases all of his captured creatures, and suddenly I find myself in the middle of the worst episode of Animal Planet ever.
For just 1 iridium a day, you too can help these poor creatures escape their cruel corporate overlords.
Slice through Jack's useless soldiers and finally track down Bloodwing, except he's slightly bigger and rocking elemental powers like a Pokemon on steroids. I quickly snipe my way through his phases, chipping his HP down just enough for Mordecai to land a trank dart. The Claptrap upgrade is finally mine, but instead of celebrating, I get hit with one of the most gut-wrenching moments in the entire game. Roland tells me to deliver a note to a past friend. Pushing through 1,000 cuts is easy enough until I stumble upon a frat where my initiation involves taking down my future brothers. Naturally, I pass with flying colors. Turns out the leader of this frat is Brick, a man who has dedicated his life to answering the age-old question, what if I just punched everything instead? After a sarcastic exchange with one of my new brothers, I knock him down a peg, then quickly deal with a guy who literally named himself Shooting McFace. Before heading back to town, we need to destroy 3 of Jack's beacons. Brick goes full Hulk mode and smashes through them. Back in town, the old gang is finally back together, though we're missing one feathered member. Now it's time to infiltrate Jack's city. I grab a new weapon and charge forward, and start seeing signs of a lost friend. Then I find Jack himself. He doesn't seem too difficult to take down. The credits roll, and the game is complete. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this playthrough, and don't forget to smash that... Wait, no, that's not how it ends. Instead, I have to gather voice recordings of Handsome Jack and use them to create the perfect impressions, because apparently voice acting is now part of my skill tree. With the voice in place, I head back to 1,000 Cuts with Claptrap. 3 rapid deaths later, and it's painfully clear I am about as ready for this as Claptrap is for social interaction. So after 50 minutes and 3 more deaths in the creature slaughter, I finally hit level 24. Now I'm ready to face the robot army. I meet back up with Claptrap, and within seconds I realize I am not a robot. Would have been nice to learn that under different circumstances. From there, I immediately start racking up deaths like I'm speedrunning failure. This wave of pesky robots gives me trouble, and one in particular wants to launch me off the map like I'm a bumper car. After a while, I finally fight my way through it and take out the constructor. Thinking I've got a big brain, I try to run past all the enemies only to slam into the harsh reality that the door won't open until I clear one out. And the one I have to clear out is not just any robot, it's a bigger, badder constructor. The quest log suggests level 24 is normal for this mission, but whoever wrote that should be launched into orbit. Keeping my distance, I snipe the constructor with careful aim and precision. After what feels like an eternity, I finally take out its last turret and the door creaks open. Wasting no time, I bolt past everything else and cross a bridge to reach the bunker, mentally preparing for whatever nonsense awaits. Before heading to the top, I stop and buy upgrades. It seems that weapon vendors in this game are rarer than a peaceful conversation with Handsome Jack, which is frustrating, considering they are the only reliable source of my firepower. My first objective is to destroy 11 cannons so my frat brothers and helicopters can assist me. Mission accomplished. Just as I start feeling good about myself, I learn that the bunker isn't a place, it's a flying robotic death machine. I proceed to take my time, carefully chipping away at its massive health bar, playing it safe like an absolute pro. Then out of nowhere, a robot bomber sneaks up on me and ruins everything. The fight resets and I get to spend another delightful 15 minutes whittling down its HP again. Then, in a moment of pure, unmatched genius, I'd make the decision to take flight. Spoiler, it is not a good decision. In fact, it is a terrible mistake that immediately earns the title of biggest blunder of the run. Now onto my third attempt, where I've mastered my strategy and taking it down feels effortless. In a final standoff, I end the hour-long battle. At long last, the Jack voice mod finally comes into play. Great timing too, because I was really getting sick of hearing it. Upon reaching the chamber, we finally learn the big twist. Angel is a siren, forced by Jack to charge the vault key like a battery. To free her, I have to fight through waves of bots and destroy 3 injectors. After taking out the first injector, Roland finally shows up, after I've already handled the bunker fight, of course. His first heroic act, stealing my last stand kill. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I take out the second injector, and boom, Lilith the Firehawk enters. Okay, now we've got 2 veteran vault hunters on our side. This should be a cakewalk. We power through and destroy the third injector, only for things to immediately take a turn for the worst. Angel doesn't make it, but what's even more tragic, Roland took this as his cue to take a full-on permanent nap. And just when I think it can't get worse, Jack collars Lilith like she's a pit bull, forcing her to power the vault key. She barely manages to teleport me out of there instead of turning me into a pile of ash. With our leader now down, Mordecai, the thinker of the group, comes up with a brilliant plan: find the warrior before Jack does. Maybe we should have thought about that sooner. Before setting off, I invest in my first blue rarity grenade mod. Feels like a small victory, but at this point, I'll take what I can get. I finally reach the bridge to Heroes Pass, only to get denied entry like I just rolled up to a fancy club in Crocs. Luckily, Brick has a solution: blow it up. That's Tina's kind of problem solving. The explosives are located at the top of an elevator, but there's a little gremlin guarding it who refuses to let me up. To make him cooperate, we do what any reasonable person would: destroy his favorite toy. This of course lures him out, and in a shocking turn of events, he promptly gets roasted to a crisp. At the top, I get treated to yet another wave of flying enemies. With some surgical sniping, I take out all 5 and mark the explosives. But before I can reach the bridge, I get challenged to a duel by Donkey Kong. Naturally, I clap him. That's when disaster strikes. I try climbing a ladder, but my Twinkie-fueled diet betrays me, and the ladder snaps under my weight. Now I have to increase the pipe pressure manually. The first valve, easy. The second one, not so much. It's surrounded by overleveled bots, so I attempt to run past them and fail. I try to sneak past them and fail, but now I get yeeted into the valve by pure dumb luck, and it's a success. And then onto the third valve, which was as easy as the first. With the pressure maxed out, I bust the pipe, the same way my pipe busts when I walk into Moxie's bar. I finally make it to the arid Badlands, and something about this place feels oddly familiar. And then a massive planet casually takes me out, so I decide to go level up a bit. I make my way to everyone's favorite pastime activity, Orchasm. I clear 1 wave of robots before realizing my best weapon is fire, and of course, they're fire resistant. Not exactly an ideal matchup. Before leaving, I snag a much needed slag pistol upgrade. The next stop is the giant crater left behind by Sanctuary, where I pick up a shiny new shield. As I make my way through the waves of enemies, a Thresher decides it's time to give me the sucky treatment, and no, it's not the good kind. Before I can process this new trauma, I stumble into an entirely new, bizarre land where the enemies look like they've been pulled straight out of a different game. I start a side quest that involves pushing a minecart, past Threshers, and Basilisks. After navigating through a series of airlocks, I toss the cart into a crusher and score some raw iridium. This quest also introduces me to a hidden weapon machine where I snag a minigun. It starts off slow, but once it warms up, it goes lights out on everything. I decide to exterminate the local bug population to earn a level up. While they're in their pod, they're even easier to kill, so it's basically like shooting fish out of a barrel. After 20 minutes of getting my exterminator on, I hit level 28 and am fully prepared to take on a huge robot blocking my way. Before getting my revenge on a big robot, I decide to visit an old friend. One who conveniently runs a side hustle as a gun dealer out of his basement. I score a massive corrosive sniper, which is basically a delete bots button. While rummaging through a few boxes, I stumble upon some undeniable evidence of TK Baja's fate. I then recover his famed blueprint and prepare to make my grand exit, except I immediately get trapped in the basement. After a clumsy escape, I handed the blueprint to Una because TK Baja was my guy and loyalty matters. Armed with my new sniper, I absolutely shred through the bots, even taking down an entire planet-sized enemy just by playing an aggressive game of peekaboo around a building. Feeling invincible, I sprint past the constructor and make a beeline for the terminal. Just as I'm about to secure the map, death. Now I get the absolute joy of retracing my steps, riding the elevator up again, dodging the constructor again, and suffering again before finally grabbing the map and bolting back to Sanctuary. Once back, I hand the map to Mordecai and high five Claptrap, officially locking in for the final battle. The mission starts out with defending Claptrap while he hacks the door. Naturally, he fails, forcing me to keep babysitting him until he finally gets it open. Just as he starts celebrating his victory, his greatest nemesis appears, the stairs. This is where we part ways. I leave him behind, grabbing a grenade upgrade on the way. As I'm fighting through, the boys show up just in time, providing sniper and tank support. Brick and I hold off an entire robot army so Mordecai can find the perfect angle to take down the next door. Right as I level up, he lands the hit, only for both of them to immediately get blown straight into the lava. RIP, I guess. Now that I'm flying solo, sniping my way through the final waves of bots. I take out the last constructor from the safest possible distance because, let's be real, I've come too far for another respawn. Finally, stepping into the vault, I find Jack and Lilith, and it's finally time to tango. Jack, being the dramatic villain he is, whips out one last trick, summoning an army of clones and a massive fire-breathing dragon known as the Warrior. The fight is brutal. At one point, I'm inches from death, but with an insanely lucky snipe on a flying rack, I clutch a second win and keep pushing forward. After what feels like an eternity, the Warrior finally falls. Jack, now utterly defeated, whines like a toddler when denied dessert. I let Lilith finish the job in Roland's name, savoring every second of Jack's downfall. Just when I'm convinced the boys are gone for good, they casually stroll back in, completely fine. Turns out they just didn't feel like fighting anymore. With that, the battle is over, which means you can beat Borderlands 2 with only vending machine gear.